Am I recording? Okay. S- Good afternoon, dear classmates. My name is Aslan Tlugaliev, and now I'm going to present you the research paper which I consider to be relevant for my master's study, in which uh, I also think that the most important concepts covered our business research method class are also captured in this research paper. So the name of the research paper is Factors Determine the Profitability of Low-Cost Airlines. It was published by Kasim Kirasi, who is from Iskandarian Technical University. Initially, I found it through ResearchGate. It was published in the peer-reviewed journal called Romanian Statistical Review under this number. However, it's not convenient to go through this PDF file, and for your convenience, I prepared a short PPT file as a way of visualization of presentation. Let me screen it. Let me share the screen. And let's move it like that. Yeah, okay. So to remind you, the paper is called The Factors Determining the Profitability of Low-Cost Airlines. Let's briefly discuss the structure. It has got the abstract, introduction, research model, dataset and method, empirical findings, conclusion, further research, and references. Starting with abstract, the region covered is the whole world. The author wants to explain to get the evidence relevant to be applicable for not for the exact region, but for the whole world. And he considers the 16 as the most big airlines in the world. Not big like small, reputable low-cost airlines. The aim of the study is to identify the financial variables that affect the profitability of airlines with low-cost business models. So the research question is, uh, what are the financial variables that exert the most significant influence on the profitability of airlines with a low-cost business model? It's not an closed-ended research question. It's an open-ended research question. So the author doesn't even have hypothesis section in its research, and I think it's permittable for this purpose. And the period covered is from 2014 to 2017, and probably it's one of the limitations of the study. However, it doesn't consider the most up-to-date data, and uh, it would be very interesting to see the effect of the COVID-19 time or global pandemic as a time dummy on the profitability of low-cost business airlines. The method used is panel data analysis. I will talk about it a bit later. There are two econometric models in our research paper. In one of them, the return on assets used as dependent variable, and the second one is return on equity used as a dependent variable. This was performed in order to split their effects and to compare them. Based on results of the first model, growth opportunities and asset structures exert significant influence, and for the second one, uh, in addition to the growth opportunities and asset structure, leverage levels also exert significant influence. In the introduction, there is just check it. Okay. In introduction, general information on the importance of aviation industry in the country economy is provided, and also it states how well it contributes to the GDP of the economy, and especially for the touristic countries. And was revealed based on research that the low-cost business model is currently at the forefront of current business model, and the aim of the contribution of the study is to fill in the gap of the existing literature, since the existing literature does not consider low-cost airlines and focuses on ordinary airlines and mostly focuses on operations and macroeconomic variables, not on financial variables. And you will see it now when we consider the literature review. So let's consider the literature which has been published up to date of the research. According to Zoidberg's traffic structure of the airport, business model and seasonality have significant impact on the airline profitability. According to Burjadi, aircraft leasing affects profitability. According to Garifalakis, it's the region which matters most, and he provides as an evidence the USA with its highest operating margins. According to Douglas and Tans, there is positive relationship between the cost sharing and profit margins. According to Matt Frost and Finney, operation indicators such as labor productivity, oil prices, maintenance costs, and employee wages exert influence on the profitability. According to Matt Frost and Toll, its operating strategy and service disruption which matters the most. And according to Rehaven and Rhodes, it's the airline safety and safety level perceived by customers is the most important factor for profitability. Based on this summary of the literature, you can observe that there is no consideration of low-cost airlines and no high attention is paid for the financial variables. Let's move to the research model. Here you can observe our independent variables, rho R, rho E, acronyms table, column, independent variables, size, growth, tangibility, liquidity, leverage 1, leverage 2, and risk. And variables, name of the variable, and formula or its measurement. Here we have two leverage ratios. One is long term and the second is the short term. And these are familiar to us econometric models. Rho A, rho E as a dependent variable equal constant variable plus independent variables listed in a row and unobserved variable or error. What is error? Basically, we can say that, for instance, we can explain the 100% changes in independent variables. However, if based on the regression results, the R squared, which measures it, shows the indicator of 30%, it means that these independent variables explain only 30% changes in row A, and the other 70% changes are explained by this unobserved or error term, the variables which we didn't include to our econometric model. The data was obtained through Thomson Reuters Econ database in 2018. The researcher employed study software. It used panel data analysis. Descriptive statistic. What is descriptive statistic? It provides us with statistics on the location of a variable measured by the mean and its variability measured by its standard deviation. And the standard deviation tells us how volatile a variable is for the given data set. And for instance, we can see the most volatile variables are growth and risk. Number of iterations at 208 for each column. And before conducting and interpreting the regression results, it's necessary to test for the follow for a number of issues which makes our econometric model biased and can be relied upon. So the first one is issue of multicollinearity, which means the independent variables are highly correlated between each other, which is not acceptable because the word itself independent means that independent variable means that these independent variables are independent from each other. However, if they are highly correlated between each other, in fact, then we can, if we want to explain by using them our dependent variable, the results will be highly biased. And there is actually no problem point, no number of above 0.8. There is no high correlation between the variables. Also, the author could use a stat_v function, which is provides us with a summary. You can see the indicator, which is a prop value, and we, if it's less than 1 or 5 or 10% level of significance, we can say that there is no issue of multicollinearity, but the author preferred to use just the ordinary correlation table, but that's okay. The problem of cross-sectional dependency, which is similar to autocorrelation, which we would consider a bit later, and we here can we have got the probability values, and all of them are higher than 1 or 5 or 10 levels significant, meaning they are not significant. There is no issue of mass cross-sectional dependency. The hypothesis is accepted. Also, each variable should be stationary. What is stationarity? Stationarity is a feature for, we can say that a variable is stationary if its properties or movement are not affected just by the passage of time. So if only the passage of time or in our data set affects the behavior of any variable, so that variable is not stationary. It can be used in our model. So the author used several methods and compares them, and all variables except tangibility of assets are stationary. However, and then tangibility became stationary after taking the first difference, which is okay. There are also heteroscedasticity and autocorrelation model. Heteroscedasticity is a issue arises when the error term is not normally distributed, and the autocorrelation probable issue arises when the error term are highly correlated between each other. So we can see the prob value here is 0, here it's 0.0001. These values are lower than 1% level of significance, meaning it's significant, and there are actually issues of heteroscedasticity and autocorrelation in our model. However, Arellano, Fruit, and Rogers correction was applied to solve for these issues in model estimation to obtain resistant standard errors. Then the author decided to use a house manufacturer to see whether he should use a random or fixed effect model. However, I would recommend to use FGS feasible generally square or panel character standard error, since they are always account for such issues as heteroscedasticity, multicollinearity, autocorrelation, stationary, and other ones. However, the author decided not just to check them under the control in the test section, and use either random or fixed effect model, which is also acceptable, but not that recommended. And the proof value for the model 1 is 0, meaning it's not significant meaning it's significant because it's lower than 1 or 5 or 10 level of significance, and fixed effect model should be used. And for the second model is not significant, it's higher than 1 or 5 or 10% level of significant, and random effect should be used. Let's move to the regression results. We have got the R square of 65%, meaning that 65% of changes in row R are explained by the variables, independent variables selected, which is quite high number, leaving only 35% for the error term. The prop-f is 0, which means whole model is best fitted or statistically validated. Here we should look at this column, and if its value is lower than 1 or 5 or 10% level of significance, it's significant. We should explain that. If it's higher, then they do not exert significant influence and we may skip them. And based on this column, we can see the growth opportunities and tangibility of assets exert significant influence on return of assets. It's quite straightforward because the growth opportunities measured by the, let me see, growth opportunities, percentage change in operating income, tangibility of assets, fixed assets to total assets. That increase in operating income increases our return on our equity. That's all. Income increases, return increases, and as to tangibility of assets, as to the share of fixed assets, especially airbuses, also positively affects our return on our assets. Logical. Let's move to return on equity. Here we have got the R square of almost 80%, which is very high number, and its error term is only 20% unexplained. The prop also 0. The model is best fitted or economically validated, and in addition to the growth opportunities and tangibility of assets, which are significant, we have significant leverage 1 and leverage 2 ratios be paired with different signs, and based on this we can conclude that leverage 1 is a ratio of total liability to total assets, and in the long term the risk is always lower and the entity is expected to be more solvent and to more capable to repay its both principal and accrued interest obligations, and also it provides a tax shield as interest expense decreases our profit before tax, and thus we pay lower amounts of corporate income tax. However, for in the short term, it creates additional debt burden. So increased leverage increases our debt burden. Lower, more cash flows should be out. There are more cash outflows to repay the debt, and our finance costs also decreases our net income, and current ratio is also better. And the conclusion is actually what I just have said. And further research always recommends you research other business model rather than the low cost one uh, in the future studies. Also, my personal recommendation would be to consider the most up-to-date data if it's available, to see and to introduce time dynamic for the COVID-19 global pandemic to see its effect on low-cost business model, since most of the airlines were almost bankrupt at that time, and that's I'm very more than sure that the low cost more business airlines will suffer even more. And let me finish my presentation. I would like to thank you for your attention. And if, Professor, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me via email. Thank you.